Hello, and welcome to Health and Fitness Redefined. I'm your host, Anthony Amen. Join me today as we take a dive into the world of health and fitness, where we learn how to overcome adversity, to pick facts versus fiction, and see health and fitness in a whole new light. Normally, I would hop on here and say, guys, we have a brand new exciting guest, but that is not the case. Today, we have a frequent flyer guest, and we're super excited to have Charlie Cassara back on the show. And on top of that, for those that are watching right now, we are live. That is right, guys. We have an exclusive live gym update with Charlie. He's going to give us the status of what's going on in the fitness industry now that things are back open. And without further ado, Charlie, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Anthony. Thanks for having me again. Pretty cool being live this time around. So hopefully we get some good questions from people out there if they have any of them.
Hey, man, I'm excited to see what people have to say, get some answers out of you. And hopefully that just sparks like a brand new conversation. I want to bring this back, though. I know we know about what you do, and we know you started about the United States Fitness Coalition. Right. But from last time we met, gyms were just getting open, and we were talking about the right to be open. We were saying, well, gyms are fitness essential. What has gone out since then till now? Fill us in for the last like 8 months it's been.
Well, after we had talk, I think it was a couple of months thereafter, and the governor did start to loosen some restrictions. So gyms did get open. Our percentages did change, but the restrictions were still there as far as mask mandates and everything. And it wasn't until recent that all of that kind of went away, where we were allowed 100%, but we were allowed 100% with certain rules. We still had to be 6 feet apart. We were dealing at that point in time with whether you had been vaccinated or, non-vaccinated. How are we going to prove that? Were we going to have to show vaccination cards? That caused its own sort of problems. And a lot of people lost some members because of that. Fortunately, that was brief.
Yeah.
I think that there was so much pushback with that was just brief. And then supposedly here in New York, we hit the magical number. I don't know who went out and count, but for like a week, we were at 69.9%, for those being vaccinated. And then finally we hit 70%. I guess that one person finally got a vaccination shot. And that's when Governor Cuomo opened us up. And that's when he let the restrictions cease. So that's currently where we are, where we don't have any more restrictions. It's still on the honor system. So if you're a gym goer or anybody like that, technically, if you haven't been vaccinated, you're still supposed to wear your mask, but it's on you. It's no longer on the business to enforce it, to ask about it, which was a big sticking point, right? Because as a business owner, I don't want to be questioning you. I don't want to have to ask every single member, can you show this to me? It was going to cause too many problems. So now we don't have to do that. We don't have to social distance. So at this point right now, everything is pre-COVID as far as what we're allowed to kind of have. And that relatively did happen, pretty quick, I guess, from that last time that we spoke. That happened within, I want to say, 4 or 5 months, I guess, from that time, somewhere around there. So, now we're open. Now we have to see what comes next.
So isn't that the question? So you've been watched about 180 some gyms are in the coalition right now. You're kind of working with. What has there been any specific types of gyms that have done better than others? Sure. Or give us a little insight into that.
So there was recently an article that was posted, I believe it was in the Wall Street Journal, that fitness itself is booming now since everybody's been allowed open, but it's not what people think. We represent more of the boutique side of things. We do have larger gyms in our coalition, from Gold's Gym and Retro Fitness, but we're really what you would consider boutique. Boutique being some fitness studios of 800 and some odd square feet up to, let's say, 5,000 and 6,000 square feet. I would consider that still to be boutique, somewhere around there. They are not back to where they were, not even close. The larger gyms are seeing an increase. So Planet Fitness, places like that, they are definitely getting their people back. They're seeing larger numbers. But our end of the gyms, we still don't seem to have that. And I think a lot of that still has to do with the fact of some of the damage that the governor did in the early stages when he was labeling gyms, because it was really directed towards us. In our business, social distancing is very tough. In the larger gyms, it was easier. We share the same equipment. We know that that's no longer true, but in the beginning, that was being told. Share equipment. Oh my God, you're going to get COVID, and the whole nine. Filtration systems and everything that we had to put in. So the gyms that are I think thriving from not just the 200 or so that are in our coalition, but from the 5,000 to 7,000 that we deal with on a daily basis. On the whole, the boutique industry is not even kind of close, and a lot of them are still closing up.
Do you find that interesting? Because when we were shut down, we were talking about it. My conversation with people has always been, well, the big gyms aren't going to make it. People aren't going to want to be around a lot of people. And that's always been like, without saying names, the big ones are dirtier.
Right.
Where smaller gyms were able to clean more frequently, kind of be on top of it a little better. Do you find that?
I don't know. I mean, I guess from my perspective, the way I had always seen it, the bigger gyms had an easier job to socially distance. So they had an easier job capacity wise. They could fit more people and do that type of stuff, whereas they can space their equipment. For us, I mean, if we weren't getting a certain amount of people in those classes, it wasn't cost effective to even have the doors open, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't even pay the trainer. There were so many restrictions on what we had to do. Plus, a lot of the bigger gyms, let's just face it, they have more money. They can weather these storms. Landlords aren't going to be so quick to throw out a 30,000 square foot anchor store, right? They're going to figure a way. Some of these other larger gyms could sell more bonds and buy it back, themselves, and they were able to have some money that way. So, I think the perspective of people, or just the people who are coming back to the gym, I think it was an easier start, because don't forget, when we finally got open, it was still masks.
Yeah.
Doing what we do was very difficult to wear a mask. It wasn't impossible, like Mayor de Blasio kept on saying, hence why, part of his reasoning for being closed in the city. But it definitely was easier to go to your regular style gym, because you can control your output. So, it went there. And then when the masks came off, I just think that trend just, kind of continued. We are starting to see people come back now, but, we're talking a week. The masks and regular capacity gone is only a little over a week.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the return to normal, or whatever anybody wants to consider normal, and I even hate using the word return to normal or new normal, or whatever it may be. I think it's going to take a little bit longer for the boutique side. And there really is no direct relief. If you want to take it one step further, there is no direct relief for boutique. The larger gyms did receive relief in as far as PPP went.
So let's talk about that. We're going to kind of take it back to relief. And I know a lot of people, from gym owners to people that just kind of saw it on the news, didn't really understand any of the packages. I don't even think some of the politicians understood what the relief was. But we had the economic disaster loan, right?
Yeah.
So that was a loan, basically.
Yes. That's ridiculous loan. So it was great, but the EIDL is a 30-year fixed interest rate of 3.75%, but it accrues interest. So it works the same similar way as a mortgage does. It's front loaded in your interest. So the money that you're paying is going all towards interest, with the principal being on the latter end of it. So it was still a loan at a low rate.
Then we got PPP, Payroll Protection Program. They launched 2 rounds of that. Can you explain a little bit again how that affected gyms, and if that was able to use?
So PPP, when it came out, it was rushed. I mean, at the end of the day, let's face it, that this was rushed. We now know that it's riddled with fraud. Okay, that there's actually a special bureau that was created to investigate fraud with PPP, because it was easy to finagle. But the bottom line was, you needed to have people on payroll. Okay, and if you didn't have that, like, boutique fitness gyms are generally primarily owned by one individual. Okay. And if they're not, it could be things where you have coaches who are coming in and they're getting a day rate, or you're having coaches who are self-insured, which for those who don't know, that's like a 1099. They're self-insured. They're paying their own workers' comp, and you're paying them directly. So under those 2 scenarios, our boutique fitness gyms didn't qualify for PPP. Now, again, you could have lied. You could have done whatever. I mean, there were a lot of things you could have done, but we didn't get it. Our entire industry, as far as the boutique fitness went, got very little to nothing. And when I mean very little, let's say maybe you got $2,000, $3,000. PPP was designed that it was supposed to, originally on the first one, was supposed to pay a certain portion of rent for length of time. It was supposed to pay months.
About 2.5 months.
Yeah. $2,000 doesn't even pay for some of these locations 2 weeks. So we didn't get it. It didn't fit for us. We tried to lobby for something a little bit different, to take into consideration the smaller businesses and things like that. That fell on deaf ears. And then here comes round 2 of PPP, and it was still the same exact thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, we were left out once again. The bigger gyms were able to definitely take advantage of that. So they did probably get 2 rounds of PPP money. They were just much bigger, had way more employees. So they were able to take advantage of that.
And then the next grant that recently came out was New York launched a program to help pay back landlords. Can you just explain that a little bit, how that affected gyms?
So that's the New York State relief. It came in very quickly. A lot of people didn't know about it. Members of our coalition did, were very well aware of it. It was an $800 million grant, and it was for all small businesses. Yeah. So that wasn't specific to gyms or anybody like that. And it had to do off of losses and revenue. But the catch was, there's a couple of them. A lot of people didn't get this money because if in 2019 you didn't show a loss, well, now you can't apply for it. Well, if you're a successful business, chances are you didn't show a loss. So a lot of people didn't even get it just based off of that. Then you also had all your 2020 taxes had to be filed. So everything had to be done. What we found was a lot of gyms are holding off on that because they're going to owe money. So a lot of gyms didn't even file their 2020. So you couldn't apply for that. At the end of the day, the max that you could get was $50,000. Okay, that was the max you can get. And that's if you were lucky to even get in there. And then there were certain specifications for that. It had to do with area. They were taking into consideration area of where your business was. They were taking into consideration gender. They were taking into consideration race. So there were a lot of things that went into that bill. We haven't heard anything yet. So as far as I know, no one has gotten it yet. But again, that was max up to 50,000, and that was for any small business, and it was only 800 million. So if you think about all the small businesses out there, that's not going to go very far.
That's going to be gone in 3 seconds.
So
then we're the next line, which wasn't specific to gyms, but they had specific grant programs that went out. They had the theater grant that went out and helped all the leaders. They also had the restaurant grant, which was to save restaurants. Tell us a little bit about what they've done specifically for the fitness industry, and if something like that, which we're going to segue into the Gym Act, can help us survive.
Well, there is nothing specific to us. So, I don't know what the right answers are to start with. But what I do think is you can't give specific industries relief and then determine the other industries that get none. You can't give specific industries relief and then say, well, you got PPP. The industries that you just gave specific relief for got PPP. So the restaurants who just got a ton of money, they got a ton of money because the money just started getting funded. Okay, as of this week, the money actually started getting funded. They got a ton of money. Plus, a lot of these restaurants were allowed to be open. Let's also take into consideration that we weren't allowed to be open. Matter of fact, we were shut down from day one. March 15th, we're shut. We're out. We can't make a dime. We're not even allowed in our businesses to film a video, right? We're shut out. Restaurants were able to somehow take out, do something. Not, even if they weren't designed for it, the fact is they were allowed to. So they got their bailout. There is nothing that was built by the state or the Fed for gyms. But again, I don't think it's fair to say one industry means more than another. If you're going to bail out one, then you need to figure out something that's specific to all of them. Yeah. And that's kind of where the Gyms Act comes in.
So tell us a little about what the Gyms Act is, what it's designed for, and what we can do to help get that passed along through Congress.
So unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there, talking to all of you, that don't even know that this exists. And why every gym isn't pushing this more, and why every gym owner isn't pushing it to their members more, and they're all not calling us or URSA or the Gyms Coalition, blows my mind. So this is a $30 billion direct bill grant for gyms. And it is made over losses. We can collect 45% of our overall losses. This is huge. Yeah. Okay. And that's just for us. Okay. It needs to be in this next bill. It needs to be in this next budget that's going to be voted on. We do have both support from the House and the Senate. It was introduced about a month ago into the Senate. It's a mirror bill of the original. That's kind of how it works. We have, as we speak, I believe over 130 co-sponsors in the House. We have somewhere like over 10, 11 in the Senate. But that's not what's going to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Because at the end of the day, if there's not enough cry from the public, or if there's not enough cry from business owners, gym owners across the country, well, then there's no impetus for our representatives to pass this through. Okay. So, we can have all the support we want, but if they're not being pushed to do it and their constituents aren't pushing them to do it, it's really not going to come to fruition. That's exactly what happened with the restaurant bill. There was such a push for it that they had no choice but to push it through.
How did they push for it? Can you give examples of specific call to action people can do?
So, yeah, as far as how the restaurants did it or how we want to do
Both.
it for both. So the restaurants did it the same way that we're kind of doing it. It was started by a small organization, a small group similar to ours. And they just did it through political connections. They had a fundraiser, funny enough, at the same place where we're going to be having ours. Senator Schumer did show up for that one. So he was fully behind it. And there was just an outcry of people that supported all these restaurants. So if you think about it, I mean, on the restaurant side, a lot of these restaurants have been around for what, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, right? So, I mean, there's a lot there embedded into the town. So there was a lot of push for that. We're similarly doing the same thing. I mean, we have URSA, we have the Gyms Coalition, then you have us, and everybody is pushing it through all sorts of channels, whether it be lobbying to politicians through grassroots campaigns, whether it be writing into the senators or writing into House of the Representatives. But again, that's not enough. It's just not enough. There has to be more press about it. There has to be enough gym owners caring about this. And I don't know why there isn't. I don't know one gym owner that can't use this bill. I don't know one gym owner that's out there saying, no, man, we opened the doors yesterday. I'm absolutely crushing it. I was able to pay my landlord back all the rent, and I'm all caught up. And you know what? I'm cruising. So I don't know anybody who's doing that. So we all need this bill. And there does become a point where maybe you don't, Anthony. God bless if you don't, personally. If your success is getting back up to pre-COVID, all the power to you. But as an industry and as a community, and this is where the fitness industry has always lacked, we're on our own. We're not a community. And that's where restaurants were different. Restaurants are a community. They do have a voice. They do have people that speak for them as a whole, and they were united as a whole. So it's about time that, so what if Goals or Lifetime or Equinox or certain CrossFit gyms or whatever are crushing it? Good for you. Does that mean that you just don't care about anybody else? That we're supposed to do? We're just supposed to put our hands up and say, I'm doing fine. I didn't got time for this bill. I'm not giving any more money. I'm not giving any more time. I'm not helping support anything. That's how gyms got put in this place to begin with, in some sort of recreation spot. It's why we were closed in March all the way for 16 months. It's why we were put into a recreation instead of essential service. It's why we can't get out of this silly ground that we're in. It's why we can't get any press on the fact that everybody should be caring right now about their overall health, their nutrition, their mental health, their full well-being, and gyms should be leading that charge as a community and as a group, and we don't. So restaurants had that. We're trying to do that, and we need more people. Our call to action is to join one of these coalitions, whether it be URSA, whether it be the Gyms Coalition, or whether it be ours, the United States Fitness Coalition. Join them. Support what they're doing in their effort. Speak to your members if you're an owner. And if you're not an owner and you're a gym goer, start writing in, start making a bigger stink about it. If you have political ties, if you have press ties, start speaking about it. This bill needs to make some noise. And it's not just here in New York. It's across the country. So we need California, we need Texas. We need everybody to start speaking about this bill and bailing out the industry that so deserves it, but is the only one that's going to help people.
I find that a couple interesting points you talked about, and I'm just sitting here kind of like reflecting like, oh yeah, that's true. Oh yeah, that's true. You mentioned how being involved in the community, and restaurants seem to be totally embedded.
Right.
I kind of feel that's the same way for boutique fitness.
Yeah.
Where I know personally a lot of people use our gym because we go about and do beach cleanups. We do fundraisers. We're always the ones reaching out and trying to help others. And I know a lot of the other gyms are the same way.
Right.
Everyone comes to their local fitness spot to ask for a donation. How many times did you get being open where people, hey, can you donate a gift basket? Donate, hey, help me out here. Gym's always the first people to step in because we want to help people. We open gyms because we want to help people.
Yeah.
And then when it comes time where it gets switched, where for the first time we're asking for help, all you hear is crickets.
Right.
And so why is that? Like, what is there a deeper meaning behind it, or what's going on with that?
You know, I think a lot of it just was what was played off in the press to begin with, like when we first closed down, right? From the governor himself. Okay. As we were the causes of COVID, we were super spreaders. All of this wasn't true, and it was proven not to be true. Why we couldn't stay open, the fact that we weren't essential. There's a lot of other things that have to do with that, which we will have some news at our fundraiser about that we're just very successful to start. But there's a lot in our industry that needs to be fixed. I get it. You know, there really is. And that might have something to kind of do with it. But the boutique fitness industry, like you said, it is part of the community in the sense that I guarantee you that if I asked you to give me something specific about every single one of your members, I bet you can do it.
Oh, yeah.
No problem. I don't care whether you have 100 or 200. I do this thing at my gym where sometimes on the whiteboard, we use a whiteboard to keep track of what we're doing in that workout. I might write a little quote that's about the person that I know specific about the person. It could be funny. It could be something. And I'll do that for everybody who comes through because I know them. So that is where we're different. We're not a larger gym where we don't know all 5,000 people, or we sold out at 10,000 and then we only see 1,000 or only hope 500 to come in, but at 10,000 pay. So we are embedded into that community now, but the support now is just coming a little too late. Unfortunately, our bill, the Gyms Act, is hitting at the wrong time. I think that has a lot to do with it too, as far as support.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody's just on overload. There's a lot of things going on under the current of the water right now. And people are dealing with their own problems, their own issues. The economy is opening. Things were just allowed to be open. So I think people are surrounded in their own bubble right now, and not thinking where we were, let's say 6 months ago, 8 months ago, a year ago. Had this bill been introduced then, and there was a version of this bill, and that did get shot down, and we had to come up with 0.2, and that's the version that's there now. I think things would have been a little bit different, but being that it's coming out so late in the game, being that we've already spent how many trillions in relief, whether it be wasted or not everybody's going to think it that way, right? They're just not. Where people now think that because we're open, that solves all these problems, not realizing that the landlords are starting to come now, and for the time that we were shuttered closed, want that money. I don't know where we're supposed to pull it from, but they want it.
Let's talk about that. So the eviction moratorium ends, I believe, in September, correct?
August 31st.
August 31st. That was close. So what does that mean for boutique fitness? What have you seen? Are people going to make it? And I know we were talking a little off show. We were talking about some loopholes that landlords can pull to actually help kick gym owners out sooner than later.
Yeah.
And how can the community help prevent that?
So yeah, that moratorium ends August 31st. And what that simply means is that landlords at that point can start eviction process for non-payment. That's important to remember, okay? Because non-payment means you've missed a certain section. Most gyms, there are some out there who were successful and had saved money and did pay their rent over the shutdown, okay? And when I mean some, a few, very few. Most of us, if we were closed for March 15th, paid March, and we didn't pay again until we were opened in September. And then starting in September, most gyms, because we were only at 33%, decided to pay carrying costs or made a deal to pay 33% or whatever it was that they made. But chances are 99.999% of gyms were not paying full rent. So we're talking about this 6-7 month window. That's really what we're talking about. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I was closed, couldn't make money. They couldn't get any money out of me. But now I'm not going back in time. I can't make that money back up. I can't recharge for 7 more months. So I'm not fully at pre-COVID numbers. So how am I supposed to take money now if I didn't have it then and pay back for 7 months or 8 months ago? That is what the landlords are going to come after. Okay, they're going to come after that window. That's non-payment. If you've been paying a portion of the rent and they've been accepting it, technically they have no leg to stand on because they fully accepted that as rent.
So interesting tidbit on that.
Yeah.
Some of us read our leases and it specifically states no matter what you write on your rent, you owe full rent.
Yeah, that's why. and that's why it's in there.
Yeah.
Okay, because the truth is if it's not in there and they accept that payment, they're accepting payment of rent.
Yeah.
So now once this moratorium, is done, August 31st, they can come after us. There are some people who may be saying, no, that's not true. We've already started getting eviction notices. Yes, you can, but it can't be for non-payment. It can be for anything else. So if they came up with another reason for it, or if they had a crafty attorney who said perhaps you didn't follow the rules, or you were opened when you weren't supposed to, and you were all over Facebook and Instagram, and you were opened, but you didn't pay me, and you went against mandates, they can find a loophole to evict you now. That moratorium may be extended. I highly doubt it. Couple reasons. I just think things have to kind of flush themselves out. And what I mean is I think tenants and landlords are going to have to figure something out. Unfortunately, that's going to mean that a lot of the tenants are going to continue to pay carrying costs or whatever they're going to do. And in 16 months or 12 months, whatever it's going to take, they're going to get evicted. Because make no mistake, we're going to lose. We're going to go to court and we're going to lose. What do I mean by that? If a landlord comes in and says, okay, so-and-so fitness from March 15th to currently today owes $60,000 for the months that you were closed and for the partial rent that you were paid. A judge is going to say, have you tried to fix this? Have you tried to negotiate this? And both of you are going to say, yes, we can't seem to come to anything. The judge isn't going to favor one or the other. They're going to decide a number. That number, chances are, is going to be more than you can even afford to pay. Yeah. Right? Plus, you already had to pay the lawyer fees and you had to do everything else. So gym owners or just owners in general are going to have some pretty tough decisions to make, whether you're going to go live through that process, whether it's cost effective for you. Hopefully you're in a situation where your landlords are willing to work with you and forgetting what happened in 2020 and renegotiating the leases moving forward, because again, they're in the same sort of boat where maybe they're not making money, but you're carrying their costs. And who's going to rent these spaces and who's going to take it over? There's also a lawsuit that's going to be filed shortly. And that's going to be to have these moratoriums lifted sooner. And that's going to be filed by the landlords. Now, I can't blame them.
No, they're small business owners.
Okay. But it has more to do on the residential side than it does on the commercial side. But the moratoriums are all tied in together. So this is more about you owning a home and renting to someone who hasn't been paying for 16 months. Yeah. And who you probably know was working off the books and collecting unemployment. So the lawsuit has more to do with that. However, these are intertwined as one. So if one goes, they both go. However, in New Jersey, those moratoriums were pushed into the end of the year. Governor Cuomo has kept his executive emergency powers still. And that is something that I could see him pushing, but he's going to get a lot of backlash for it if he does. That's for sure.
Very interesting. There's a lot going on. And it's just been, I feel like a whirlwind for all of us because everything just seems to be happening at once right now.
Yeah, it's all coming down now very quickly. So I'm going to say over the last week, my phone has been blowing up, a lot of emails, a lot of attorney questions, a lot of what do I do? And the other aspect is a lot of gyms have partners, whether that be a 50-50 partner, a silent partner, a financial backer. And now they are coming into the mix because they don't want to be putting any more money into a business that's already a loss. And there's no saying whether you're going to be able to succeed or save this business. Yeah. So now that creates problems, right? So there's way more going on here. So, if you're out there and you're in the public, and you're just, you have a different type of job. Maybe your job's in finance. Maybe I don't know, you do something other than what we do. You're not an entrepreneur. You work for someone. The idea that things are back to normal and we're opened, well, that's not true. It's not even remotely kind of true. Just for all these things that I said, I'm telling you, 90% of all small businesses owe a portion of their rent. I don't know where they're getting it from. The gyms in particular, without this Gyms Act, without this $30 billion direct relief bill, you are going to see gyms continue to close over the next few months. But then you have other things that are going on with the infrastructure bill. You have other things going on where the housing market is here right now and it's going to continue, but sometimes it's going to plateau. When it plateaus, it's going to come down. And that's all going to tie in. There are 40 million people, residential people, not your commercials spots, that are facing evictions come September 1st. 40 million.
Wow.
What are we supposed to do with all those people? Where are they going? What happens when all those foreclosures hit? Now, if I own the home and I relied on that rent, now that's 16 months I haven't got it. Maybe I have to foreclose on that home. But now maybe I'm a small business owner. So now I had to foreclose on that home. I can't pay back the rent over here. So now I lose that. Now I lose my personal home. These are all things that people are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So this idea that we should be patting ourselves on the back and having a 4th of July special to congratulate ourselves on, a job well done, governor, and that you did great, it's just nonsense, because you fixed nothing. Nothing is fixed. You just allowed people to be open, which we should have been opened a long time ago, which is a talk for another time. But, that's kind of where we're at with all of these things. So there's a lot going on, hence why we need this bill. But even more than the bill, Anthony, is why we have to come together as a community. And if we're not going to do it, we're just all going to sink by ourselves. We're just all going to sink by ourselves.
So how can people show support? I know you're mentioning a little bit of a fundraiser that you guys are running in July. So tell us a little bit about that, how they can register, and then also if there's anything else they can do to help kind of save this economy.
we are having the fundraiser at Mulcahy's on July 22nd.
And for those that don't know where that is, where is it?
It's in Wantagh. It's right across the street from the train station. So you can take the train there. So there's no excuse if you're in the city. Tickets are available on our website, www.usfc.info. You could buy individual tickets. You could buy tickets of 10. You could buy a whole table. It's open bar, top shelf. It's buffet. We're going to have raffles. We're going to have prizes. One of those is we have a couple of trips. We have Mets box tickets. We have a lot of things that we're going to raffle off. So if anybody wants to help support that way, please do that. We're hoping to draw a lot of attention to the Gyms Act at this event. The event is designed and wrapped around the Gyms Act itself, because at the end of July, there will be a vote on the budget. So it's our last kind of push to get this through. You can also, if you're a gym owner, you can join our coalition, same website, and you can take a membership. And what that does is that helps us continue with our lobbying. That helps us continue to push out the Gyms Act and deal with, other coalitions like URSA and the Gyms Coalition, who are pushing for the Gyms Act, who actually have spearheaded a good portion of that. So, they're all great coalitions to belong to, support. Go to their websites. There is material you could fill out where you can send to your local representatives. So those are kind of the ways immediately that you can kind of help us and be a part of that event. And, if you're going to a gym, speak to your gym owner. There's a bunch of ways that I'm sure that you can help. Recommend people to come to your gym on another level. Do a refer a friend program. If you love where you go, share why you love where you go. Give your gym owner a great review on Google. It goes a long way. Talk it up when you're out to eat. Why, Anthony is so awesome. Why his trainers are so awesome. Share your successes and, kind of help your gym owners, that way, that will go far too.
And let's save the fitness industry.
That's it. Hashtag save our gyms.
Hashtag save our gyms. And thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Health and Fitness Redefined. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button. And also, guys, if you're watching this live, share this video and join us next week as we dive deeper into this ever-changing field. And remember, fitness is a journey, not a destination. Thanks for coming on, Charlie.
Thanks, Anthony.
Until next time, guys.